Liebe Zuschauer, herzlich willkommen vom Parkett der New York Stock Exchange. Ich bin Manuel Koch und bei mir ist Warren Meyers of Illustro Trading. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here, thank you.
Warren, I have a feeling the winter weather is being crazy, and we saw the initial claims, retail sales, industry production. So everywhere we see a big impact.
Yeah, I think we really do, and I think the weather really can be or the bad numbers can be attributable to the bad weather, and I think that's why we've seen not really a negative reaction to those numbers. And I think next month's numbers and the following couple are going to be very important to see whether or not it was in fact the weather or if this was a negative trend. But I think the weather has a big impact. I think it's been discounted in the market, and I think that's why we've seen a continuing up movement in this market this last week.
And do you assume an impact also on the GDP?
I think that it might have a slight impact. I don't, not significant, but listen, if it in fact has an impact on the retail sales and consumer spending and jobs, it certainly ultimately will have an impact on the GDP. So there is a correlation there.
I mean, we saw this huge winter storm Hercules in January. Over 100 million Americans were in this storm, and also in New York right now. I think it's really a big thing.
I think it's a big thing, and to be honest with you, I think everyone's getting very sick and tired of it. And I think that at the end of this week, I think everyone's very tired right now and just kind of hoping to get through to the weekend for the long weekend. And I think that impacts the trading too and the volume. A lot of people can't get into work and don't trade, and so it has an impact across the board.
We also heard someone taking over. It's a woman. She's the new Fed chair, Janet Yellen. So what do you expect from her? Anything new and maybe a new way?
I think basically the only difference is maybe just her way of communicating and might be a little bit different than Ben Bernanke's, but I think the message that she's going to try and put out there is going to be very similar to what Ben Bernanke put out. So I think content won't be much different. Style of delivery might be a little bit different, and that'll just take people a couple sessions to get used to is all.
So the interest rates will continue low. We will see the tapering. Is this priced in?
I think it is priced in. I think we're going to continue to see the taper month by month until they're no longer buying bonds. And I think Janet Yellen made it very clear that basically the zero rate interest policy will be here indefinitely until both inflation and jobs are at a level that they're very comfortable with. So I think we've got this policy in place, and it's going to be around for a while longer.
The last weeks we saw this volatility. It's going up, it's going down. Now we are over 16,000 points again. What do you expect? Is this going on, the volatility?
I think volatility certainly picked up over the last few weeks. It's calmed down just a little bit this week, a little bit, not much. I think that sell-off that we had was not the big correction everyone was hoping for, but it was enough for people to get back involved. And a lot of the analysts that I'm reading think that now that we've stabilized off of that and started to climb, that we can go to new highs and maybe extended new highs. And then once we get up to those lofty levels, that's maybe when you have to watch out. So I would look for a continuation on the upside here for a little while longer.
I mean, it was a good buying opportunity, but many people were looking for more, a real correction. Do you think this will still happen in the first or second quarter?
I think we might get it, but again, I think we have to get to those elevated new highs first, and that's really going to be the opportunity for people hopefully to sell out in time and then pull back and wait to jump in after we have a bigger pullback. That's at least what a lot of people I'm reading believe might happen, and it seems like we're setting up for that right now.
What could drive the markets higher and higher?
I think it's a combination of the policies out of the Fed, the fact that even though they're tapering, I think the impact of the bond purchases has diminished over time. So I think that really doesn't have any effect, but the Fed is going to be there with a zero interest rate policy, and they'll do anything in their power if things turn ugly again. So I think that floor is still in this marketplace. I think that's why that we didn't get the big sell-off initially. And then basically beyond that, I think it's any positive you see in jobs growth or any positive you see in consumers spending, consumers' well-being would be a real boost to the marketplace.
So this week, will you keep an eye on the Fed minutes?
Oh, absolutely. Again, I'm not anticipating anything new, but you always have to keep your eye on that, because if there is a quick change in policy or a change in wording even, it can have a big impact on the market. I'm not expecting that, but you certainly have to keep your eye on that.
We will see also some housing numbers. Anything else you're looking for?
Not particularly this week was a fairly light week in data in the economic data here in the States, and next week is not much bigger, especially being a short week with a Monday. So there's not, the housing numbers is always something to keep your eye on to see if the housing market is holding strong or as strong as it has been. Beyond that, though, I think it's going to be another relatively quiet data week.
You already said the volume is not that high. Where could maybe investors go in the market? Which sectors are interesting?
You know, I'm a firm believer that the financials and technology are the leaders, and you need those to get a real strong upward movement. And the fact that I believe we do have more room to go on the upside, I would look at those areas. Again, though, I'm talking short to medium term, because I think if we do get to lofty levels, that's when you really have to be nimble and maybe pull back.
So in the end of the week, are we lower or higher?
I think we'll be higher.
Warren Meyers of Illustro Trading, thank you so much for joining us. Und Ihnen, liebe Zuschauer, vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen. Wir sehen uns bald wieder hier vom Parkett der New York Stock Exchange.